and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the major news of the week, unpack its significance and examine how today's decisions shape tomorrow's direction. This week's key issues centered on election-related developments and governance matters. The Election Commission issued a 64-point directive to regulate political parties ahead of the House of Representatives election. Concerns were raised over the lower number of women on the voter list despite their larger share in the population. Ballot papers were distributed nationwide and candidates were required to open separate bank accounts to ensure transparency in election spending. Discussions also covered voter education, election police recruitment, party manifestos, and the link between elections and the economy. Other major concerns included stagnation in the corruption control, delays in license printing, improvements in passport services, and a review of the fiscal budget for 2082-83. With the manifesto clock expired, only a handful of parties have put their cards on the table for March 5 polls. This leaves voters unsure about what each contender actually stands for. Diksha Awasthi brings more.
Months after the September 8th and 9th Gen Z movement demanding good governance and social justice, voters are heading to the March 5 polls with heightened expectations from those in the contest. In such a context, election manifestos are no longer just another document. They are public commitments that define whether they are ready to respond to citizens' dire demands. Recognizing this importance, the Election Commission Nepal had set February 15 as the deadline for political parties and candidates to submit and publicly release their election manifestos. This is mandated under Clause 37 of the Election Code of Conduct 2082, which directs parties participating in the elections to submit them to the Election Commission.
Till yesterday, 28 political parties have submitted their election manifestos to the Election Commission. All the political parties and candidates have to start their election campaigns, active election campaigns, after releasing and submitting their election manifestos. That's why we are requesting all the political parties to comply with the request of Election Commission Nepal.
While several parties have already submitted and made their manifestos public, some major parties are yet to release their blueprint even after the deadline. According to recent updates, the Nepali Congress and CPN-UML are expected to unveil their manifestos only in the coming days, crossing the Commission's deadline. Although the Code of Conduct mandates submission, there is no specific punitive provision for failing to submit manifestos on time.
There are two parts of punishment. One is we always focus for promotional activities. We promote the activities and compliance of the political parties. Then they have to comply with the directives and request of the Election Commission. Then another part is just punitive action. If they do not comply with legal measures, then only the Election Commission goes for the punitive action. That's why we are again and again requesting political parties to submit their election manifestos.
With only days left before voters head to the polls, their dilly-dally in publishing commitments might raise skepticism among the voters if the parties or candidates can keep up to their expectations after the election.
The Election Commission of Nepal has issued a 64-point directive to regulate political parties ahead of the House of Representatives election on March 5. Campaigning included rallies and door-to-door activities began from Monday and is permitted only till March 2 between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. with all campaigning banned 48 hours before polling until vote counting ends. All election-related expenses must go through banks. Contributions above 25,000 rupees require bank transfers, and full expense reports must be submitted within 35 days, while distribution of election symbol materials, digital boards, wall writing, plastics and polythene is prohibited. Candidates are limited to 2 authorized vehicles. cannot use government vehicles or involve children, and those measures aim to ensure transparency, fairness and proper conduct in the elections. Women form the majority of Nepal's population, yet they remain underrepresented in voter rolls and electoral politics. Despite making up 51.1% of Nepal's population, they account for only 48.9% of registered voters for the House of Representatives election. Despite constitutional guarantees of proportional inclusion, women's political participation in Nepal continues to lag behind their demographic majority. According to the 2021 national census conducted by the Central Bureau of Statistics, women make up 51.1% of Nepal's total population. Yet, data from the Election Commission of Nepal shows that women account for less than half of registered voters in the upcoming House of Representatives election. Out of 18.9 million registered voters, women comprise roughly 48.9%, while men make up 51.1%. The gap is striking. Although women outnumber men in the population by more than 6,50,000, there are over 4,23,000 fewer female voters than male voters. Observers say the disparity highlights structural and social barriers that continue to exclude women from full political participation. Suman Ghimire, Information Officer at the Election Commission, acknowledged the institutional and logistical challenges.
मतदाता नामावली दर्ता सङ्कलन एवं अद्यावधि कार्यक्रम भन्छौँ हामी त्यो कार्यक्रमको बेला चाहिँ हामीले गर्नुपर्ने शिक्षा अलि कम भएको कि कम प्रभावकारी भएको कि त्यो पनि एउटा कारण हुन सक्छ र अर्को चाहिँ यो पटक हामीले सङ्कलन जहिले पनि जति पनि गर्यौँ हामीले मतदाता नामावली सङ्कलन यो चाहिँ सदरमुकाममा जिल्ला सदरमुकाममा जानुपर्ने भयो पछिल्लो कालमा चाहिँ 6-7 दिन हामीले जुन एनआईडीबाट सङ्कलन गर्यौँ नभएदेखि फिजिकल रूपमा मान्छे उपस्थित हुनुपर्ने भएको र त्यो पनि सदरमुकाममा जानुपर्ने भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि पनि महिला मतदाताहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ जान अलि असुविधा भएर कम महिलाहरूको सहभागिता कम भएको हो कि भन्ने हामीलाई लाग्छ.
In many parts of the country, women remain confined to domestic roles, limiting their mobility and access to public services. While online registration options exist, digital illiteracy and limited internet access further restrict participation. Gender and social inclusion expert Saru Joshi described the situation as regressive.
Most of the women do not have the citizenship. The second point is that, as you have also already said, that household work burden may have also restricted them. The third thing is that they may not have a smartphone or the computer. Access to those appliances may have also limited their registration. Fourth is that most of the women are in informal work, informal sector. So, their one day's, wage, salary, is very important for them to go to the, Sadar or to other places to go and register. And many of them may not have the information as well.
She emphasized that political participation is not only about voting but also about representation and decision-making power. Although Nepal's constitution mandates proportional representation, women's candidacy in directly elected seats remains significantly low.
6 times women are more overburdened by the household work. And in South Asia, Nepal's this statistic is high. So we also have to consider what are the other factors that is impacting women. In 2022 election, there were 335,000 plus lesser women voter. This time in 2026, 427,000 plus women are less as a voter. It is a really serious issue that I think Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare or the Women Commission, they should really do some research on that, why there are lesser women.
As Nepal prepares for another election cycle, the gap between constitutional ideals and ground realities underscores the urgent need for stronger policies and inclusive implementation to ensure genuine political empowerment for women. The Election Commission is running a nationwide voter education drive to reduce invalid ballots and promote informed participation. Election officials say the ongoing campaign, which combines traditional outreach with digital tools is crucial for reaching citizens in remote areas, many of whom have limited formal education, as past efforts launched late also struggled to prevent voting errors. Here's a report. In one of the world's most geographically diverse countries, Nepal is mobilizing volunteers from urban areas to remote Himalayan settlements in a nationwide voter education drive ahead of the March 5 House of Representatives election. The Election Commission is launching the campaign from 15th of February in a bid to reduce invalid votes. One volunteer will be deployed in each of the country's 6,743 wards across 753 local levels. The program will run till March 1. Volunteers will conduct door-to-door awareness campaigns using sample ballot papers. They will educate voters on proper voting procedures, correct marking and folding of ballot papers, the importance of ballot secrecy, and common reasonable ballots are rejected. Voters are also being informed about how to avoid such errors.
विगतका निर्वाचन भन्दा यो निर्वाचनमा बदर हुने मतको संख्यालाई घटाउने गरी कार्यक्रम अगाडि बढेको छ। मतपत्रमा पट्याउने तरिकादेखि लिएर छाप लगाउने तरिकासम्मका कुराहरू कसरी छाप लगायो भने त्यो मत सदर हुन्छ। हरेक मतदातालाई चाहिँ मतदान कसरी गर्ने र सही तरिकाबाट कसरी मतदान गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुराहरूको जानकारी पर्याप्त मात्रामा गराउनुहुन्छ। त्यो कारणले गर्दा यो पटकको मतपत्र बदर हुने संख्या हामी न्यूनीकरण गर्छौं।
To ensure coordination across the country's diverse terrain, one election contact person has been designated in every ward. However, the voter education strategies vary depending on the type of election, as ballot designs and voting systems differ across federal, provincial, and local polls. Still, eliminating invalid votes may not be possible, say the experts, adding that targeted grassroots campaigns can help in reducing the number. The representatives have been connected through an official Election Commission WhatsApp group to facilitate communication and timely dissemination of instructions. Election data show that, on average, more than 4% of votes cast between 1991 and 2022 were invalid. In the 2022 federal and provincial elections alone, 5.06% of votes were rejected. The Election Commission has allocated 250 million rupees, which is approximately $2 million, for voter education campaign. It has also incorporated digital literacy components to help voters identify official sources and avoid misinformation. On the other side of the story, this year's polls is projected to generate over 120 billion NPR in economic activity. Elections are considered a major driver of economic activity and not limited to political celebration. As market cash flow is bound to rise during elections, it is expected to positively impacting the overall economy of the country. Bijita Vandari along with Kamala Aryal brings more.
Economy is an important part of elections. Elections affect not only political activities but also various sectors of the country. Economists believe that House of Representatives election on March 5 will help energize the overall economy. Specifically, elections influence the economy in 3 phases: before candidate registration, during the election process, and after the elections. Campaigns by candidates, rallies, transportation, and advertising lead to a significant increase in income for printing presses, media houses, and transportation businesses. This in turn increases demand for consumer goods and injects liquidity into the market, which economists view as a short-term economic expansion. Given that banks currently hold substantial deposits and rural areas have a slow income-generating environment, elections provide additional momentum to economic activity, helping to stimulate the economy. It is estimated that economic transactions during this election will exceed 120 billion Nepali rupees. Economists also say that if a stable government is formed after the elections, it will boost private sector confidence and lay the foundation for a long-term economic growth.
एउटा त्यो चुनावको प्रक्रियाको बेलामा एउटा चाहिँ चुनाव सकिएपछि 3 तहको 3 प्रकारका आर्थिक गतिविधिहरूले प्रभाव पार्छ र मुख्य रूपमा नेपालमा खास गरी चाहिँ चुनावले के गर्छ भन्दा चाहिँ यो आयातमा आधारित त्यो पनि खर्च खर्चमा आधारित हाम्रो अर्थ संरचना भएको हुनाले के हुन्छ भन्दा खर्च पहिला भइरहेको खर्चभन्दा बढी खर्च भएको कारणले मुद्रास्फीतिमा बढी प्रेसर दिने भयो, आयातित वस्तुहरूको पनि वस्तु तथा सेवाहरू महँगा हुने भए अनि हर कुरा चाहिँ माथि चाप पार्ने भएले चाहिँ बढी माग भएको कारणले
Economists also caution that elections may have not only positive but also negative effects on the economy. If the government is unable to increase production and development activities are slow, merely increasing money supply in the market could lead to inflation.
नकारात्मक भनेको कहिले चाहिँ फोकस आउट हुन्छ, हुनुपर्ने सरकारको ध्यान एकातिर छ अनि ध्यान अर्कोतिर पुगेको हुनाले यो विकास निर्माणका कामदेखि केही पुँजीगत लगानीहरूमा चाहिँ अलि अनदेखा भएको हुन सक्छ.
Furthermore, the high expenditures from the state treasury on security and preparations for elections may create pressure on public debt and the budget deficit. Foreign investors may remain cautious and adopt a wait-and-see approach, which could hinder long-term economic growth.
Away from election activities now. Nepal's federal, provincial and local governments have repeatedly pledged faster digital public services for years. However, the printing of driving licenses has been delayed for months. Many service recipients, despite passing their driving test long ago, have not received their smart license yet and are forced to drive with temporary papers. Bijita Bhandari, along with our correspondent Anjir Singh Bika, brings more. Many applicants report that months, and in some cases even a year, have passed since they passed the driving test. Yet the smart license card has still not been issued. As a result, they have had to rely on temporary documents to operate vehicles. The delay in license printing has caused problems ranging from traffic checks to banking services and foreign employment, according to the affected citizens. Officials cite technical and administrative issues as the main reasons for the delays.
संरचनाको अहिले 3 महिना अवधि चलिरहेको अवस्था हो। यसमा दैनिक एमएनसीको हकमा हालसम्म 19,385 जति लाइसेन्स प्रिन्ट भएर आएका छन्। जुन हामी बाइलेटरल एग्रिमेन्ट भएको थियो त्यो अनुसार हामीले काम दुवै पक्षबाट भइ नै रहेको छ र अस्तिको दिन मात्रै हामीले उहाँहरूलाई 1,18,000 डेटा दिइसकेका छौँ ब्लकको रूपमा। भने 78,000 जति डेटा भेरिफाई भइरहेको छ।
Smart license cards require imported chips and materials. Delays in contract processes and the printing system has not been fully operational, all of this contributing to the problem. The Department of Transport, however, claims that it will manage to provide licenses to all applicants within the next 3 months. Despite these assurances, service recipients say repeated promises without firm deadlines have weakened public confidence. They are calling for a clear, publicly communicated timeline rather than verbal commitments. As Nepal continues to promote digital governance and efficient service delivery, the unresolved license printing delays highlight the gap between policy ambitions and on-the-ground implementation. Whether the department meets its 3-month target will be a key test of public trust in Nepal's digital transition. The Department of Passports has stated that it has made services easier by improving the previously difficult and time-consuming process of obtaining a passport. The department now completes registration within an hour and issues passports within 2 days. However, some service recipients still complain that the system is not yet fully organized. We have a report.
आधी घण्टासम्म लाग्यो त यस्तै भन्न चाहन्छु कि कहीँ भी नपर्खिनु पर्ने के जनतालाई छिटै काम बढाउदिनु होला।
एकैछिनमा भयो, अब 3 दिन आउनु भन्नुभएको छ। अनलाइन लाग्दा पनि अलि छिटै हो, उहाँहरूले छिटै गर्नुभयो, सर्भिस छिटै दिनुभयो उहाँहरूले।
This is the statement of a citizen who came to apply for a passport. In the past, people had to stand in a very long queues and wait for hours just to obtain a passport. But on Tuesday, applicants who visited the Department of Passports completed their passport-related procedures within an hour of registration. The department asked them to return on Wednesday to collect their passports. Recently, after improvements in the passport distribution process, the general public has started receiving passport more conveniently. Earlier, even after standing in line for hours. People had to wait up to a week to get an urgent passport. Now, the department completes registration within an hour and issues passports within 2 days. Moreover, those applying from districts receive their passports within 10 to 12 days, according to the department.
आफ्नो समयमा निर्धारित समयमा सेवा लिन आउने सेवाग्राहीलाई सामान्यतः लाइन नबसिकन र सानो छोटो लाइन बसेर आधा घण्टादेखि 1 घण्टा भित्रैमा उहाँहरूले सेवा लिन सक्ने गरी बनाएका छौँ। राजधानी वितरणलाई पनि सहज बनाउनलाई डिजिटल डिस्प्ले प्रविधिको लागू गरेर सहज रूपमा लिने व्यवस्था गरेका छौँ। अनि जिल्ला इलाका प्रशासन र विदेशी स्थित नियोगमा पनि प्रत्येक 7 दिनदेखि 15 दिनभित्रमा छपाई त्यसको लट बेसिसमा हुन्छ।
However, some service recipients still complain that the department's services are not yet well managed.
गरी त्यो नम्बर भन्छ, गरी यो नम्बर भन्छ, राम्रोसँग करेक्ट इन्फर्मेसन चाहिँ उहाँले दिन सक्नु भएको छैन के। गरी त्यहाँ जाऊ भन्छ, गरी त्यहाँ जाऊ भन्छ। सानो बच्चा छ यता कमसेकम बच्चा लिने मान्छेलाई चाहिँ अलि फ्यासिलिटी दिनुपर्छ उहाँहरूले चाहिँ।
The department has also stated that there are no problems regarding passport availability. Under a new agreement for passport printing, the process to print 6.4 million passports, enough for the next 5 years, has already begun. The department currently has a stock of 500,000 passports until next Jesta. At present, based on demand, the department is distributing passports nationwide at full capacity, issuing around 4,000 to 6,000 passports daily.
The government has downsized the budget for the current fiscal year 2082-83 following a mid-term review. According to the Ministry of Finance's half-yearly assessment, total expenditure has been revised down to 1.68 trillion rupees, a cut of more than 14% from the original budget of 1.96 trillion rupees. Current capital and fiscal management expenditures have all been reduced, with capital spending seeing the sharpest cut. Revenue mobilization remains estimated at 1.48 trillion rupees, with nearly 90% expected from tax revenue, largely driven by indirect taxes. The revised budget aims to achieve 6% economic growth and limit inflation to 5.5%. The Finance Ministry cited post-protest instability, project reprioritization, election costs, and weak capital expenditure performance as key reasons for the revision. Spending priorities have been set on reconstruction, strategic projects, and mandatory obligations, while unprepared and low-impact programs have been put on hold. That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.